What's going on, Celtics fans? The 2026 NBA trade deadline has come and gone, so we got some news to start off this new week ahead of Celtics basketball. We got a Jayson Tatum injury update to talk about as he inches closer and closer to a potential return this season. And also, Brad Stevens talked to the media after the trade deadline and talked about Jayson Tatum and also spoke about the Celtics deadline moves and what it means moving forward. We're going to break down all this on this edition of Celtics Today by Chat Sports. But with Tatum coming back potentially very, very soon, manifest it for me. If you want Jayson Tatum to come back this season, because it's not guaranteed just yet, do one thing for me. Go down below and hit that thumbs up icon to lock it in. All right, so Charania coming in with this major Jayson Tatum injury update, saying that sources tell him Jayson Tatum has started controlled 5-on-5 scrimmages with coaches. He has aggressively attacked his rehab at every turn. And listen, there are more boxes for Jayson Tatum to check. There are more phases in his rehab. He's got to practice with the team, of course. And Jayson Tatum has made clear to people around him, from my understanding, that he wants to come back as close to Jayson Tatum as possible. Not a shell of himself, not a lesser percentage of himself. And the other side of all of that is the Celtics medical staff will have to clear him 100% before he can return. We'll talk about that last line in a moment, but there still is no timetable on a Jayson Tatum return. This is a positive update. This is an encouraging update that he is beginning to do these scrimmages with coaches and whatnot. However, we did hear that Tyrese Halliburton had started to do these scrimmages with coaches a little bit ago, and that makes me think Jayson Tatum was a little bit ahead of Tyrese Halliburton in his recovery. Maybe he's even further along than Shams is reporting here. That might be old news that Shams is coming out with. We did see the guy do these types of workouts, kind of full speed, not 5-on-5 or anything, but full speed one-on-one workouts in front of media. I mean, you guys remember this before they played the Pistons a couple weeks ago? Jayson Tatum did this in front of everybody. And then we heard Chris Mannix say that that was no accident whatsoever. Like, this was not an accident. Tatum wanted the media to see him working out and jumping and doing all this stuff full speed. So I love the fact that he went after that and made it known to the public that, yeah, he wants to return this season. We'll also talk about the quote that he had on Ryan Clark's podcast, talking about the return of the season. I don't think we should read too much into that, but let's go to this first from Keith Smith on what's next for Jayson Tatum after the Shams report. He says a few things about the Jayson Tatum report and him doing these controlled scrimmages. First, you go against coaches. Next will be against the end of your bench guys. And this, if you guys don't realize, the Celtics don't really have all their end of bench guys. There's still 2 open roster spots on this team. He says NBA teams rarely have full practices in season, especially this late. So every return from major injuries starts like this. Everyone, from Tatum to the coaches to the front office to the medical staff, has been hesitant that Tatum will return when he feels ready. Insistent. Being physically ready is one thing. Being mentally ready is also a huge part of returning, with 9 weeks to go until the 2026 NBA playoffs. And then we also heard Chris Mannix say this recently. One that I think this is bigger than even Shams Charania's report. My understanding that Jayson Tatum has reached the mental hurdle phase of his recovery. Okay, so if we read between the lines a little bit there, if he's reached the mental phase, and then Shams Charania said that he needs to get to the mental phase, so that means he's already past the physical stuff. Chris Mannix is insinuating here that Celtics doctors have said Jayson Tatum is good to go. I'm not necessarily like cross my fingers or anything, but it feels like this is genuinely something that's realistic here over the next 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. It's absolutely possible, especially if the Celtics think they can go out there and win a championship, and Jayson Tatum's going to bring them closer to doing that. Brad Stevens said that as well. Brad said that any team that brings back Jayson Tatum is going to be a better basketball team. So maybe they want him to come back here over the next few weeks. He said, quote, he's hit a lot of the thresholds. He's doing more and more and will continue to do more and more, but he's still got a ways to go. I feel like this ways to go that Jayson Tatum's got going is more mental than physical. Because remember he went on a couple weeks ago, the Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark, and said this. That's something I contemplate every day in terms of returning this year. More so about the team. If or when I do come back this season, they would have played 50 some odd games without me. So they have an identity this year, and things have felt like this has clicked for them, and it's been successful. So there's a thought in my head that, how does that work? How does this look with me integrating myself off an injury? And is it a thought like, damn, do I come back? or should I wait? In the last 2 weeks or so, I contemplate every single day. And keep in mind, that was way back on like January 27th. Like that was a ways away ago. This is before the Shams report recently. So Tatum's clearly trying to get back in a rhythm and trying to get back in a spot where he can return to the Celtics team. Again, no timetable, but the more updates that we keep getting signal to me that Jayson Tatum's going to come back this season and not wait all the way until 2026, 2027. But that's just me. What do you guys think? Will Jayson Tatum return to play this season? Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Y for yes or N for no on if JT is going to return back to play for your C's this season or not. Coming up next, we have some major news from Brad Stevens. Yep, Bradley Stevens coming at us with some trade deadline stuff and even a little bit more on Jayson Tatum and where this team is going to be moving forward. First, though, I got to tell you guys about our sponsor on today's show, and that, of course, is Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app. Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. Prize Picks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every dime, and every board that much more exciting. So don't miss the chance to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks, and that's Prize Picks. You guys can take a look at my Prize Picks lineup. Don't think I'm a stranger to this. I've been a customer longer than they've even been a sponsor here at Chat Sports. And for tonight's basketball action, I got Colin Kneppel more than his points, rebounds, assist number. Jaren Jackson, the points, rebounds, assist number, but I got him going less than 24.5. And then Nikola Jokic. They always give out fun deals on Prize Picks. I'll tell you more about their features in a second, but this is just one of them. A flash deal. A little bit of a discount off the stats. I got Nikola Jokic more than 22.5 points on that one. You can take advantage of their other deals, like early payouts. So if your lineup gets off to a hot start, you can cash out those winnings before the games even finish. You can also copy other players' picks, including my own, using the brand new community feed tab on Prize Picks. It's so simple to play. Just pick 2 to 6 players and just pick more or less on their projected stats, and you can win up to 2,000 times your money in one single lineup. So download the app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, so Brady, he went up on the good old podium there in front of the Celtics and New Balance signs, and he talked about the trade deadline, the acquisition that they made of Nikola Vucevic, as well as the salary dump moves that they made to get under the luxury tax line. If you guys don't remember, here are the Celtics moves before we can kind of contextualize them all with Brad's comments. Nikola Vucevic and a 2027 second-round pick for Anthony Simons and a 2026 second-round pick. Now, these were two separate deals. They allowed the Celtics to use the Kristaps Porzingis trade player exception, and then by trading Anthony Simons for a second-round pick, they actually generated a new $27 million trade exception. Brad doing some wizardry there with the cap. Also, Chris Boucher was sent away for John Tonje, who we also realized after the fact that we didn't know who was coming back in this deal, whether it was a second or cash considerations. Celtics ended up getting a new two-way deal after they converted Amari Williams, which was good news, and another salary dump move here. Also, Josh Minott in a salary dump move. Again, nothing came back in the deal. I think these were just teams doing good stuff for their friends there. Also, Danny Ainge made the Celtics attach a second-round pick to get that John Tonje, Chris Boucher deal done. Of course, Danny's always going to squirm you out of a second-round pick. Charlotte Hornets deal went as follows right after the trade deadline. Like, this was way after the buzzer. Xavier Tillman got sent away as the Celtics got to get under the luxury tax line, which makes them so much more flexible and opportunistic this offseason and next to build out the rest of this roster and improve, which we know that this team could improve in a couple of areas. So let's talk about what Brad said and his justification for all of these moves. He said, obviously, in the summer, we had to get under the second apron. Every basketball reason in the world for that. And it was the right thing to do. The direction at the trade deadline was, let's see if we can find, some size that we could give ourselves a little bit more depth out there and make sure we are more prepared for some of the physicality that's coming down the road if we're able to be in the playoffs and for however long you are in the playoffs. They're talking about the front court, talking about getting better down low, and they did that by getting Nikola Vucevic. And all I've been getting over the past few days is a bunch of flack about the Celtics. Oh, the Celtics are broke. Oh, the Celtics are this. The Celtics are that. They didn't get better. They did trade away Anthony. No, the Celtics got better at the trade deadline. They got better, and they got more flexible. Just because they're cutting costs and getting under the salary tax line does not mean that they are broke. It means that they are smart, and they don't want to go through the years and years of being in the luxury tax and the repeater penalties that you have to face and the restrictions that you have in terms of roster building over the next few years. teams at the top and teams who are facing those types of things right now, they're going to feel that same type of pain. They're going to have to cut costs like the Boston Celtics will over the next few seasons because it's just the basketball thing to do. I don't care how rich your owner is. You're not going to pay more for luxury tax penalties than you are for your actual roster down the line. It makes absolutely no sense, and it completely restricts you in terms of what you want to do building out the rest of the roster, making any improvements the rest of the way. You can't be stuck in this NBA because too much changes year to year. The Celtics getting out ahead of it right now. Now, Brad also talked about it being tough to move a guy like Anthony Simons, a guy who's coming here, done the work every single day, been a great teammate, and improved in the areas where you wanted to improve upon, as well as won you a couple of games. I mean, Anthony Simons kept the Celtics in a bunch of games this season, so it's tough, of course, to move a guy like that, but you saved some money, and you got better on another portion of the team that you thought you needed to get better at rather than the depth that you had at guard. And here's Brad Stevens justifying the move even more. He said, we saw that as an opportunity, getting out of the tax as well. But next year, if there's something that we look at and we say, we've got to take advantage of it right now, then we're going to try to take advantage of it. Bill Chisholm has been really clear with that. The tax, for me, was an opportunity with 2 days left before the deadline we didn't necessarily think would be there. The Celtics weren't hell-bent on trading for Nikola Vucevic the entire trade deadline cycle. But once they did, and once they saved the money off the Anthony Simons deal, they found themselves $6 million away from the luxury tax line. It made all the sense in the world to move off of the veteran minimum salary guys that aren't in your rotation, by the way. Josh Minott, Xavier Tillman, and Chris Boucher, none of them played. Why would you have them on the roster when they're just literally making sure that you have luxury tax penalties? That makes no sense at all. We're not here to operate like the Oakland Athletics, though. I get it. Like we're not cutting costs just to cut costs. We're cutting costs to be smart. So for anybody who's trying to say Celtics new ownership's broke, all this, give me a break, okay? They made the right basketball moves and they got better roster-wise for this season too. So I don't know what all the hubbub is about. Look, Boston still has to fill out 2 roster spots though. They with the fact of them salary dumping all these players, like they still have to fill out the rest of this roster to be in compliance with the NBA. So what's that kind of look like? Brad saying this on it. We'll ultimately fill a roster spot with at least one more ball handler and then see how the rest of the needs play themselves out. And then the person who wrote this article said, he added that the other spot might be filled on the buyout market, but whichever player comes in, quote from Brad, will not be somebody we're going to ask to come in and be a part of the everyday rotation when we're fully healthy. Okay. So to get on the first part of that, more of a ball handler, I'm not going to sit here and act like Ron Harper Jr. is a crazy ball handler, but I will expect Ron Harper Jr. to be a two-way conversion at some point here. The Celtics have about, 10 days still, 9-10 days to get onto that roster compliance with 2 more players. So I'd expect Ron Harper Jr. to kind of still be on that two-way deal and use up those NBA days for the next a week and a half or so, and then he gets his contract converted for the rest of the season. And then the Celtics will only have one more spot to fill after that. But since Ron Harper Jr. isn't necessarily a ball handler, well, maybe they could go after a guy in the buyout market. What about Dante Exum, Chris Paul, Lonzo Ball? Now, I will say this about Lonzo. There's reports coming out about the Golden State Warriors going out there and targeting him, so not sure if he's going to be an option for the Boston Celtics. Dante Exum, on the other hand, he has not yet been waived by the Washington Wizards after that Anthony Davis trade, but it is sort of an expectation that he's going to be. We'll see if that ends up happening, though. Some of these buyouts don't end up going down until like a month after the NBA trade deadline, so we'll see if anything else comes of this or any other options that Boston has. Remember, they're going to take their time with whoever they end up signing. And then Chris Paul is out there, too. He's going to get waived from the Toronto Raptors, so he's an option, but he's also a guy who wants to come into the locker room and spread his own ideas and his own leadership, and I'm not sure if that will mesh super well with Jaylen Brown and the rest of the guys leading this Celtics roster. With that being said, who would you sign out of these 3? Dante Exum type of DE, Chris Paul type of CP3, and Lonzo Ball type of Zoe down below. Which of these 3 ball handlers would you want Boston to target for the back end of their bench? As that will do it for today's show. Make sure you give me a follow over on Twitter at Tyler J. Smith, 2 H's because the name's common, but I am not. And make sure you are subscribed to the channel as well. YouTube.com/CelticsTV for the latest and greatest on your C's the rest of the season and beyond. We'll see you guys next time. And as always, let's go C's.